My name is Cody Roberts. I'm a teacher at Milby High School in HISD, and I also work for HCC Southeast.
So the first question is, what advice would you give to someone who is struggling to achieve their dreams?
The advice I would give someone who is struggling to achieve their dreams would be to persevere, to not give up on those dreams, and work as hard as you can in order to achieve your goals, and be mindful of realistic goal setting.
Second question is, what skills are required in your position on a day-to-day basis?
The skill set required on a day-to-day basis, I would say as a teacher doing what I do, where I do it, the biggest issue is patience. I would say you need to be very patient, but you also need to be consistent. I would say time management is an important skill set, and in education, organization, and being preparedness, and organization. Yeah.
So the third question is, do you consider yourself successful?
Yeah, I suppose I consider myself successful. That air conditioner is just loud. I'll turn that off.
You were not supposed to say nothing. I'm just kidding.
We're good. All right. Do I consider myself successful? I do, and I think I had always imagined that having success included being autonomous, and I am autonomous. I am financially independent, and I kind of can do whatever I'd like to do, which is what I always considered being successful. Finishing college and having a stable career that allowed me to do what I want to do when I want to do it would be success, and so I would say I suppose I'm successful.
What are the biggest factors that helped you become successful?
A good support system I get along with, and have a good relationship with my parents, who helped me get through my education, which was also paramount to achieving success in this country. You gotta have a college degree, sometimes two, and in order to find that autonomy that I mentioned. So I would say having the college degree is the biggest asset, and then ultimately having a support system, if it's friends or families or relationships.
What obstacles did you face to get you where you are today?
Oh man, a number of obstacles. There were academic obstacles where you get overwhelmed or feel like, I've always felt like college was never going to end. It was like it took a long time, and you're at the beginning, but it's a long road, and that can be overwhelming. It can be daunting. It can be it can defeat you some days. If you have toxic relationships, whether they're personal or professional, that can be a stumbling block. Financially, you got to pay for school, and that was a big obstacle for me. Ultimately, like working part-time while you're trying to go to school, taking out loans. I took out loans to go to grad school, and that is something that I would consider an obstacle. And really just self-doubt, and maybe a lack of self-awareness.
Yeah, and I think that would answer number 6. What would you say were your greatest weaknesses, and how did you overcome them?
Okay. Yeah,
I was overcoming that, self-awareness.
Yeah, not being as confident in myself as I should be. That always creeps in. I think that's a normal thing for people to go through, but that's something along the way. Or selling yourself short, not shooting high enough for certain goals. Maybe I would say that's one of my biggest weaknesses. Is I don't think I'm ambitious enough, whether that's a negative thing or not. Like, I'm cool with doing my thing and living my life, but maybe should shoot a little higher or whatever. I think that's something that creeps in too.
All right. So this next question is pretty weird.
Great.
Why is it that teachers praise kids that are jerks for not being jerks, while the normal kids happen to be, just left there with such no accomplishments for, not being bad as well?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think what I'm hearing is, and this is a problem in education, and it's a problem specifically here where I work, where you spend so much time on students that don't want to really be here or put in the effort, as opposed to redirecting that energy towards the students who are good. And I coach too, and that happens a lot in coaching, where I kind of can become preoccupied on the kid that doesn't listen, as opposed to the dozen who are listening, and not spending enough time lifting them up, as opposed to tearing this other kid down, whether it's in whatever context that you're doing that. And I think the reason is because adults in that position as teachers they know, like we know that you guys, a lot of times I have students that the handwriting's on the wall, like this kid is making a number of bad decisions and how much of a slippery slope that is. So there's an element of desperation or like trying to reach or maybe save a kid that isn't receptive to that, and then maybe taking it personally or kind of being fixated on like, this is the kid that I've got to reach and got to help, and it ultimately doesn't always work because you get a lot of resistance from students like that.
All right.
I don't know if I answered that question, but that's my answer.
Yeah. Why do you get up in the morning?
Why do I get up in the morning? I wouldn't say nothing too profound. I mean, you have a life to lead and a paycheck to earn. I think that the sort of world-beating, I'm going to save everybody, that wears off after the first few years of teaching, and you kind of just settle into the realities of, I've got stuff to take care of today, and I need to make sure the next paycheck shows up.
All right. What is the worst thing a human can do, in your opinion?
The worst thing a human can do, in my opinion, the worst thing a human can do, I would say, would be to take the life of another human. I think I would say so. To take the life of yourself or someone else, I think that's pretty bad.
What or who do you love?
What or who do you love? I love my family and my friends, and I love the fact that I get to lead this life of autonomy. I'm very lucky and blessed to be in. I've done a lot of traveling, and you get a lot of perspective in other places in the world that don't have the things that we have, the things that we take for granted. So I do like that I have that perspective and I have opportunity. I love freedom, and I love the fact that I'm healthy. I think if you don't have your health, you don't have anything else. So all those things. I love all those things. I love you, Cowboy, most of all.
Thank you.
Yeah, former students coming back, doing what they're supposed to do. I love that. The end.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Hello, my name's Father Michael Minifee.
Oh, you don't have to look at the camera.
Oh, I don't have to look at the camera. I apologize for looking at the camera. I'm not technologically savvy. I'm not of the selfie generation. So, yeah, I'm Father Michael Minifee, and I'm 41 years old. I'm a pastor here at Queen of Peace, and I've been pastoring here, I think, for about 4 years now. And I come from Canada. I belong to a community of priests called the Companions of the Cross. So we have to live together as priests. That's one of our rules.
So the first question is, what advice would you give to someone who is struggling to achieve their dreams?
Well, the advice I would give to them is, first I'd want to know what exactly are their dreams, and are their dreams written down or not. I once heard this statement that said, it goes something like, if your goals are not written down, then all they are is a dream, which means they're not going to be accomplished. So the first thing I want to know from that person is, do they have a plan to achieve their dreams? And then if they have a plan and they're just struggling to reach their dreams, well, that's different. That's something. Maybe they need support, and they try and find, or help the person find a way to get that support to reach their dreams. And I would read this amazing quote, but I don't have it here. I have it on my wall. You want me to go get my quote?
If you want.
It's an awesome quote. Hold that line. All right. This quote, Andres and Carlos, is one of the best things I ever read. It's from Teresa of Avila, one of my heroes. She was a great saint in prayer who established a whole bunch of basically nun places for people to become nuns. And she really struggled. It's about prayer, but I think it's about life. So if someone's struggling with their dreams, this is what I would tell them. Read this quote. I don't have anything new to say. And she says this: it's most important, all important indeed, that they should begin well by making an earnest and most determined resolve not to halt until they reach their goal. Whatever may come, whatever may happen to them, however hard they may have to labor, whoever may complain of them, whether they reach their goal or die on the road, or have no heart to confront the trials which they meet, whether the very world dissolves before them. That's the advice I give. In other words, if you want to reach your dreams, you have to be determined to go all the way. You never give up.
Well, the second question is,
Enjoy that quote.
so
I'm not here, Mom.
the second question is, what skills are required for your position on a day-to-day basis?
Well,
Like PhDs or saying what you needed to do, language.
well, for me as a priest, one of the skills is I need to pray. So I think that's really important. So I get up every morning and pray for an hour for myself, talk with the Lord, try and get a sense of what He wants me to do in the day and life and leading the parish. So that's probably the number one skill, is not doing anything that the Lord doesn't want me to do. And then the other skills, practical skills that you would say is for Queen of Peace here, I need to be able to speak Spanish and English. I need to be able to what I call it mutual submission, which means I need to submit to people who I put in charge of different things. So I need to take their direction. Even though I'm the boss, I need to trust my bookkeeper, trust my assistant, trust my associate pastor. So I think that's a very big skill that I'm trying to learn. And other skills I need, I have to be organized, which I'm not. So I have other people organize my life for me. And I need to be scheduled. I need to be good with my schedules. I need to be patient, because things, as a priest, they take a long time. So it's like sowing a seed in the ground. You're not necessarily going to see the fruit until maybe years later. So it's a skill is like waiting and being patient and trusting that you're going on the right path, even though at first you might not see too much fruit. I think another skill is just trying to help different groups or people see what I would call the bigger picture. Whether someone's suffering and someone died, or someone was killed, someone was murdered, or suicide, or a baby was passed away, or there's a problem in a marriage, or there's problems with what we call ministries here at Queen of Peace, with maybe people are struggling or they're not getting along.
All right, so you can continue where you were at.
Well, that was we were just talking about the skills. So, I think when Bishop Schultz, I asked him, what should I do when I become pastor here at Queen of Peace? And he said, ask lots of questions, find people who know what they're doing, and ask them lots of questions. Get yourself a mentor, and you're going to make a lot of mistakes, but don't worry about it. Just call the chancery, which is like the office, the bishop's office, and they're going to help me along. So I pretty much have done all those things.
All right, the third question is, do you consider yourself successful?
That's a loaded question. I don't know. I mean, I'm never really satisfied with where I'm at. And I would say that's actually one of my weaknesses, is that I don't celebrate my successes. but I think in some ways I am, or the Lord has allowed me or helped me be successful in different things. So, yes, I have been successful, I guess, in some ways, but I've also learned that it's not really me being successful, it's more what God has done in my life. You know, when I became like really into my faith, it changed my whole perspective. Because before I thought I could do anything I wanted. I was very smart, supposedly. No, I was very smart, and I was able to accomplish goals. For example, when I was 11 years old, I ran a marathon. I started trying when I was 8 years old, and I just couldn't get to it. I didn't have enough kind of muscle mass on me, but I just kept trying, and then when I was 11 years old, I ran 26 miles. Then I decided, well, I'm going to get my black belt in Taekwondo. So I got my black belt in a couple of years. And those are kind of like pivotal things for me. And then when I became really into my faith, because I wasn't really living my faith, I thought I could just do the same thing. I just have to try really hard and I'm going to kick butt for Jesus. But what I realized is actually that's not how the spiritual life works. The spiritual life is actually recognizing that you're weak, recognizing that you can't do it all on your own. And that's been a very humbling experience. So even though I would say, yes, I've been successful, I think I've been successful because I've learned a lot about my failures. I almost count my failures more important than my successes because they teach me so much. So if I was to sum up, I would say you cannot be successful without learning from your failures and learning that your weakness is okay. Like, you know, St. Paul says, in my weakness, the Lord is strong. His strength is there for me.
And that basically answers question number 4, the biggest factors that helped you become successful. Like in your eyes, it was doing all that.
Well, accepting my weaknesses. And the other thing what I'd say is probably the biggest factors in being successful is finding what I call circles of support. So there's me, but really there's the Lord in the center, and then immediately the next circle, so that's my hour of prayer. The next circle are the priests in my community that I share everything with. They're my support system. We meet every 2 weeks. We share about our lives. They pray with me. You know, they try to encourage me. They help me. They challenge me. And then beyond that are all these other different circles. For example, I have a whole bunch of mentors who help me with business questions. So those are all the businessmen. With people who are really good at planning and organizing events, they're my mentors. I had somebody who was really helping me with HR, like human resource challenges and things that I need to understand. And then I have friends who just help me support me spiritually, and other friends. I have some friends, they just say, Father, we're going to take you wherever you want to, we're just going to go. You don't even know where you're going to go, but we're just going to take you. I said, okay. They said, just bring your passport. So I went to the airport, I swiped it, and I found out we were going to Guatemala. So those are all the things that really helped me be, I think, successful. It's just all these people surrounding me who are my strength. You know, especially in those people are all those areas are really areas where I'm weak. So they support me and allow me to, do the Lord's will as much as I can.
Well, the 5th question is, what obstacles did you face to get you where you are today?
Lots of obstacles, mostly myself. Probably, thinking about the question is kind of about a vocation, right? Like, what are you called to do? And I spent a lot of time in the seminary, which is where you study to be a priest. And for me, I think I wasted a lot of time doubting whether I should be or shouldn't be. And I think it would have been better just to simply say, I'm all in, and Lord, you just got to make it abundantly clear. If I'm not in, make me absolutely miserable, so it's just horrible, and that I know beyond a doubt that I'm not called. But if it's not that, then I'm gonna enjoy the ride. But a lot of times I was like, oh, am I called? Am I not called? Am I called? Am I not called? So I think I wasted a lot of time. I had a lot of fun in the seminary, but I could have had more fun if I had not doubted so much. So I think that was one of the, and then the other thing is, struggles with prayer, trying to hear God. That was difficult sometimes, but I persevered through that. And being a priest, there's lots of struggles in being a priest too. One thing is you're not always going to be liked, and that's been difficult for me. You're not, you have to make decisions for what I call the body of Christ, and individual members of the body of Christ are not always going to like that. So that can be kind of painful or challenging when people point out sometimes legitimately your faults or your failures, and sometimes people do things that are not so nice. And that can be discouraging. But the main thing is you just keep going, you keep praying, you keep trusting the Lord, and He'll take care of you.
What would you say are your greatest weaknesses, and how did you overcome them? I think that was the question I just asked, right? No, I didn't mark it right. Oh, there you go.
Well, my greatest weaknesses are, a lot of my weaknesses, I would say one is doubt, doubting that I can do it. Another is not trusting the Lord, and I think not trusting others, so that's a big important thing for me, is to try to learn how to let others help me, so to ask for help. And I have a lot of other weaknesses. I really think it's just accepting them too, and working with them. So sometimes I don't want to accept my weaknesses. For example, I could look at another priest and say, "Oh, that priest, he's got gifts that I don't have, and I want to have that, but I have gifts that he doesn't have. So I'm just wasting time. I just need to accept what I have and support that weakness." Like I said, I'm not good at organizing. I'm terrible at times and dates. I mean, so what? It's on my calendar. I still miss it. So that's probably not going to change too much. But my staff knows that. So they constantly tell me, "Father, don't forget about this meeting. Remember you have this meeting." So that's really important. Otherwise, I would miss all my meetings. So that's an example of, one of my I have too many weaknesses.
No. All right, the seventh question is, have you ever been nervous in front of a crowd, or at least frightened by a tough audience?
Yes, all the time. I'm always nervous. But what I think is great is, something comes over me. I don't know how to describe it. But like when I preach, so that's in church, I'm always nervous at the beginning, especially in Spanish, but also in English. I'm nervous, but then it's just like I want to start, because once I start, then something comes over me. And, for the most part, I really, really enjoy it. That's probably one of my favorite things to do, is to preach and to teach. So, but yeah, having a tough audience is hard, especially not knowing your audience. For example, I pretty much know the people of Queen of Peace, so I'm preaching to myself, but I'm also preaching to the things I know about that are going on in people's lives. So that really helps. But if I don't know the audience, if I don't know the people, that's really hard. For example, Father John Paul he takes care of the young adults at university.
Yeah, U of H.
U of H.
Yeah.
So, I go there and I'm trying to preach, and I keep wanting to talk about, marriages and I'm like, nobody here is married. So I was kind of like, this is tough for me, because I'm not used to that crowd. So I find it really helps to know your crowd. But I really enjoy being in front of people and trying to communicate a message. So, but I always have that little nervous thing in my stomach.
All right, the eighth question is, what is the worst thing a human can do, in your opinion?
It's the worst. It's a funny question. Not funny, but I mean, it's like, you want me to give you a list of all the horrible things?
Not like
the
like
worst thing.
Your top one, what your opinion is.
Well, I think it would be to deny God, because Pope John Paul II, I read once, said, "A society built without God is sooner or later built against the human person." So, for us Catholics, I mean, God is the Trinity, the communion of persons, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, fully in communion, and we're made in His image and likeness. So we're supposed to be in communion. And I think what happens, the worst thing that happens is we're not in communion with each other, and that leads to terrible things. It might be something simple as just simply not talking to each other, like people putting on their earphones when their meal's on so they don't have to talk to their parents, or their parents not, someone not coming home from work because they don't want to deal with the issues at home, to all the way to abortion and murder and those types of things. War, terrible war, where people are killed, innocent people are killed. So in the end, for me, I think it all comes back to our relationship with God. And if we don't really know who God is and understand His love, then we don't know who we are. And that's the worst thing. It's like we're denying our very identity. It's like looking in the mirror and saying, I don't know who you are. I cannot connect. And to me, that's a terrible tragedy that we see in our world right now. Just a loss of identity. But to me, I know that sounds kind of maybe surprising, because you want me to list the most horrible evil, but I think evil comes from all that.
So number 9 is, what or who do you love?
What or who do I love?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious. I love Jesus. I love God. I love Mary. I love people too. I love, lately what I've really found so exciting is I feel like God is leading me to a different chapter in my life. So I'm meeting some really incredibly successful people in the world, and I'm learning so much about them, like how to be positive and how to approach situations. And it's just amazing to be with these people and to kind of feel their energy and learn so much. So right now, that's kind of what I love. If you like on a natural level, some of the things I like to do is like woodworking and go hiking, and I like canoeing and that kind of stuff. Anything that involves slight danger, like skydiving or something.
So the last question is, why do you get up in the morning?
That's a good question. Why do I get up in the morning? Well, when I get up in the morning, I want to seize the day. I'm excited about the day. Now, not initially, because I need coffee. So the very first moment I get up in the morning, it's not like, yay, happy. It's get that coffee going. And, but I really do, I'm very satisfied to be a priest. I love being a priest. And I find it deeply satisfying, even if it's difficult sometimes. So when I get up in the morning, I'm really excited about my day, because it's already, in a sense, planned out, and I know great things are going to happen. So in my mind, I just can't wait to seize the day, like to see what's going to happen. So that's why I get up in the morning, is to see what God's going to do in my day and in my life.
Well, thank you for your time, Father Michael.
You're welcome.
Okay, once you get on the path of a desired business, an achievable goal, that's what you do. You set achievable goals to accomplish what you're trying to get at. Then you make good business decisions on top of accomplishing those achievable goals. Once you do one and the second one, then it becomes a little easier. Then you make smart business decisions. Very, very important. And at the same time, when they stumble and it gets a little harder, don't give up. You keep trying. You keep driving. You never give up. And you always find the answer to whatever questions that you might have. So, research, desire, accomplishing achievable goals, and then you can set your standards a little higher or go to the next level to accomplish those achievable goals that you're struggling with. Okay, one, you have to know your product. Okay? You have to know your industry. You have to continue to maintain continuing education so you can stay on top of the latest product, the latest trend, the most latest technology, so that you can educate your customer. You can educate your consumer. The more that you can learn about your industry and what you're trying to run your business on or achieve or learn, the more you can educate your customer. That's the most important. Do I consider myself successful? Yes, I do consider myself successful. This is how and why I consider myself successful. I can adjust to, let's talk about the economy. The economy changes on a yearly basis. Whether it be a new president, or whether it be a war, or whether it be a depression,
or just a drought. You know, just a simple weather drought. You know, the weather just.
So many things will determine our success, and if you're able to work around this diversity and know how to corner the market or educate your consumer, then yes, people are going to call you. So if you can overcome these diversities, anybody's successful. Yeah. Not just me. Anybody, but you have to know your industry. You have to know your market. That falls back on your market. And once you can figure that out, then yes, I'm very successful. Yes, I've failed. Yes, I've rebounded. Yes, I've came back, and I've accomplished achievable goals. It falls back on the same question, the first question that we talked about. But if you can overcome those and make good business decisions, yes, I'm very successful. Referrals. Okay, the biggest thing that helped me succeed in my business was referrals. Going back to, regardless of what business you're in, industry you're in, you work for someone, the impact that you make on someone, if people know or understand or believe in you, regardless of what you do for a living, they're always going to come back to you. That's the biggest factors that make you successful.
So when you got the very first referral, do you remember when you got your very first referral?
Mm-hmm.
You remember that particular job and that person who called? See how she
Well, what happened was I didn't get one referral, I got 10 referrals.
10.
Because the impact that I made on that person, that customer, how they saw me, how they understood me, how I came across to them, how I educated them. And say you work at a hospital and you're just a intern, but regardless of what you do and regardless of what situation you come around, if you show people that you know what you're talking about, you know what you're doing, you have self-confidence, you're well educated, and you're the man for the job or the lady for the job, they will always come back to you. Those are the biggest factors. It's how you
Make yourself indispensable.
well, it's how you come across to people. It's how you take care of your business. It's how you take care of your personal life, that sort of thing. You could talk to someone at, say, like Walmart, and this lady is having a bad day, and her kids are driving her crazy, and you see that things are just falling apart for them. And you don't know anything about these people, but you know you. You know what you can do. You know what you can accomplish. You know how smart you are, and you know how confident you are. And that's another big key in running a business, is being confident and you knowing how to handle situations and knowing how to find the answer. Those are also other big factors that make you successful. So you go to this lady and you de-escalate the situation and you make everybody's lives a whole lot better. People do it on the exact same thing on different levels, different situations, different businesses and careers, and that's how they're successful. The obstacles that I faced where I got today, number one I would say the government and the economy. The biggest thing was probably the economy. You have to know how to read the economy.
How did that affect you when you first started?
When I first started, I had to figure out how to get the phone to ring. So that was my economy. That was my public. I had to figure out. So at that time, a lot of people knew that I was in business. A lot of people knew I could fix anything that heated or cooled. So once I capitalized on what little I had to work with, then one call led to one call. That call led to two calls, 3 calls, and so on. And it's like a pyramid effect. It just blowed up.
And then you had to get your license, get all your certifications.
Well, by this time, what I'm talking about, I already had my license. Okay. I could not really start my business without a license. Okay. So, what was the question?
Yeah, what were the obstacles?
The obstacles. Okay. Yeah. There's all kind of obstacles that we have to face every day on a normal daily basis or running a business. And
income, accounts receivables.
You definitely don't want to overspend your budget. So when you work and you make revenue, you use that revenue to run your business. And the more that you can convince people they can't live without you, the bigger your revenue becomes, so the bigger your budget becomes. That's an obstacle. So, and then once you're just taking it to the next level. So there's many obstacles that we have to face running a business.
Yep.
My weaknesses were more personal.
Yeah.
Not having my kids around me. It was more personal. So I didn't really have any weaknesses because I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I needed to do. I knew how to accomplish that goal.
You have to stay focused on the objective.
Right. You just stay focused on those achievable goals. But I don't really understand or know what you're talking about when you say great weaknesses. So I never had any.
Well, it's think of it as challenges to overcome. You know, if you start your business, no one's perfect. No one's a perfect businessman. People are good. Sometimes people are not good at other things. You hate bookkeeping. I know that.
Well, I guess you could say that's a great weakness. I had the great opportunity. Okay, you brought up a good point. Paperwork and office work, I guess you would say, was my great weakness, and I wasn't real confident with that particular.
I mean, you're comfortable in being in the attic and hooking stuff up and getting stuff running. But when it comes to sitting at a desk and doing numbers,
Right. It really didn't sit too well with me, and I wasn't very comfortable with it. So I had the opportunity of being introduced to Chris, and I was able to start him out as my IT guy. And I knew how to do the paperwork. I just wasn't real crazy about it, and I didn't like it. So
get your wife to do it before.
So I had other people that volunteered and wanted to, not really volunteer, but they wanted to tackle the job, but they didn't realize, as successful as my business was, how much paperwork and numbers that I could produce. And I would produce just mountains of paperwork. So I taught Chris, or showed Chris, how to do this, and during this process, he found a way to do it better and easier than I could do it. So it was easier for me to employ him to help me out with this great weakness that I wasn't real comfortable with. And that made us more successful. So you can't really do everything yourself, because you will get extremely overwhelmed depending on how successful you are.
You can't be a So this one right here.
Okay, you read the question.
What was the hardest part of establishing your business?
Stay right there. All right, the hardest part was, once getting started, is getting the phone to ring. Establishing your market and establishing your customers. And also, there's another determining factor. What's the market like? What's business like going on in your area, your community, your country, that sort of thing. So that will also determine. But the hardest part was getting the phone to ring. So you're still working around other factors. And then once you can figure out how to work around those factors, then things become a little easier. So the hardest thing is getting your phone to ring and knowing your market.
Did you fail?
I failed a couple of times. And I didn't fail because of me and how I was doing things. The determining factor of my failure was the market, the economy. Depends on if we're going through a war, or if we're going through a financial crisis in our market, if we're going through a presidential election. Different things will determine that. So your failure can depend on many things. You don't want your failure to depend on you or fall back on you. If it is, you have something to work with. You can figure it out. You can learn from it. Follow up with resources, do research, and fix the problem. But when you have other determining factors that are creating the failure, then you just have to work with it, not against it, and find a way to succeed and work around it. The worst thing that a human can do in business is continue to make the same mistake over and over and over and give up. Okay, the most important thing in business is to be successful to your market, to your customer. To learn from your mistakes and don't do the same mistake over and over and over.
Don't give up.
And never give up.
And why do you get up in the morning?
To run a successful business. I get up in the morning.
First thing you do in the morning. What's the first thing you do? You get up, what do you do first?
Well, same old routine. When I get up in the morning, you brush your teeth and wash your face, and take a shower, prepare. What I consider prepare for that daily battle. That's what I do. I prepare. I make sure my customers I communicate with my customers. I make appointments. I organize my day. I make sure I got all the materials needed to do the job. And I plan for that entire day. But I also communicate with my customers because things can change. You're tied up in traffic. Another emergency service call comes in. So as long as you communicate.
And you wake up every day intending that I'm going to get up, I'm going to run my business, and I'm going to do the best I can to be successful.
Well, and another thing too, to add that, why do I get up in the morning? To achieve achievable goals. That's plain and simple in a nutshell. You know, you plan your day prior, you set achievable goals, you plan and you take care of those achievable goals, you achieve them, and you do something successful. So that's what you do. That's why I get up in the morning, because I have a plan, I got to get it taken care of, and I'm accomplishing achievable goals. And another thing too, you're going to hear me say this again, I never ever give up.